Hi, my name's Ian Grunnett, and I'm here to talk to you about my Go for Gala project, git-ratchet. You may have heard of Git, the distributed version control system. It's extremely likely given that the repositories we were given for Go for Gala were on GitHub. You most likely have also heard of a ratchet. A ratchet's a mechanical device that allows motion in one direction but prevents it in the other direction. So I'm going to introduce to you git-ratchet. Git-ratchet is a tool for building ratcheted builds. Ratcheted builds are builds that go red when a given measure increases. What are ratcheted builds good for? Let's say you've inherited a large JavaScript project containing hundreds and hundreds of files, and you want to introduce JSHint into your build for this project to try and improve the quality of the code. Now, this is only a toy example containing 3 errors, but you can imagine a situation where there may be hundreds of errors. And in that case, it's really hard to allocate a block of time to be able to knock out the 100 or thousands of errors that you need to in a given sprint. So it's very hard to get that time to be able to do that work. But you do want to make sure that the code is getting better over time and the number of JSON errors are going down. So you need a ratcheted build to ensure that the project is going in the right direction and new feature development aren't introducing additional JSON errors. So let's get started. To start off with, we're going to use the check command. So we'll first, I've got a lovely little command pipeline I prepared earlier, which extracts the number of errors out of the JSHint command and puts it into the CSV format containing the name of the measure, which is jshint.errors. So if I pass that into git-ratchet check, it's passing at the moment. So the reason, if I increase the verbosity, is because there's actually no measures stored in my Git notes currently. So let's change that. Let's say that I'm running this on my CI server like Bamboo or Travis CI. I'll add this -w flag, which means that if the measures aren't failing currently, so they're not rising, then we'll write the new values of the measures against the repository against the current commit. You see here we've successfully written the initial measures, which is great. So we now have those measures in the notes, and if I run check again and increase the verbosity, you'll see that the metrics are currently passing. Alright, so let's say I'm doing some new feature development and I introduce another variable, and as you can see, I've introduced a couple of errors as a result. So I'm up to 5 errors now. If I rerun git-ratchet check at this point, you'll see that it's reporting. If I'll just clean up a little bit here and get rid of some of that verbosity, you'll see that there is a metric rising. So this would be failing the build because the exit code is non-zero. The one thing you may have noticed if you were quick on the verbose output is that it's checking for excuses. So if you find yourself in a situation similar to mine right now where it's 2 AM and you're trying to get something out the door, you can use the excuse command to write an excuse as to why the metric is rising. So let's do that now. To start off with, I'll commit. So the reason why I'm committing is that in this hypothetical situation, the CI server is the one that's actually going to run the check and realize that it's rising. And that's the one that needs to get the new nodes. So I'll write my excuse now. This ratchet. Alright, we have an excuse. Now let's see if we can get the check to pass. The check's currently passing, so I errored that the metric was rising, but the check's passing because of the excuse. So if you actually run in verbose mode, you'll see that it's found the exclusion that I've added and checks against the excuse and finds that the metrics are actually passing. So if we run -w now, which is what the CI server would be doing, it writes the new values in, which means that if you run check again, we see that it passes. Let me just clear that up a little bit so you can see what's happening. I'm actually running check again now, and it's passing because of that excuse. One last thing is the dump command. So one great thing about putting all this data into Git notes is that not only does it follow around your repository, so as you push to your repository host, and then your CI server pulls from that repository host, the data follows it around. You don't have to push to some third-party web application and then get your CI server to pull from there. The data is just following the repository around. The other great thing is that just like Git has a full history of the commit graph, as you write these data values over time, you get a full history of how your measures are changing over time. And this will allow you to build some great graphs to be able to see whether how long it's going to take you to be able to tackle the remaining errors, as well as how your team's going over time. If you had a lot of time, you might be able to even take this data and build a wallboard and put it onto a wallboard using something like Atlas Board. So there you have it, git-ratchet, my project for Go for Gala this year.